Is it better if I just do it?
Yeah.
Without? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Great. Well, there's got to be several of you out there just sick of hearing from me, but I'll overlook that. I'll overlook. You certainly don't want to hear another presentation, so I'm going to keep it very brief. As Phil said, we're in a critical part of the approval process for this project. The recirculated draft EIR is back out on the street. It came out about 3 weeks ago. And there's a 45-day comment period for the community, the public, to make their feelings known about this project. And if you go to the website, which is Second and PCH, spelled out, secondandpch.com, you'll see the highlights of the recirculated draft EIR. But let me just sort of give you the 3 headlines. Number 1, there is 3 areas that can't be fully mitigated. One is traffic. The last time this EIR came out was 11 months ago, and there were 5 intersections that couldn't be fully mitigated. There are now 2 intersections. Probably can guess what they are. They're Second and PCH, they're Second and Studebaker. It's not that we're not taking every possible measure to try to reduce our traffic impacts, but you can appreciate that with intersections that are already at a level of service D or F, even with a little bit of additional traffic, it becomes difficult to mitigate it to no impact. So we're spending millions of dollars in fees and other physical improvements and coordinating signals. We have a transportation demand management program that will allow people to park anywhere in the 2nd Street area. We have a free shuttle bus that will take them around. We're giving transit passes to all of our employees. We have a guaranteed ride home program. We'll have a shuttle going to the airport. So we've got a lot of measures in place, including an emphasis on our bike station to try to get people out of cars. But there are impacts. And we've said from the outset that a project at this scale, put it in place where there's a project that's essentially a failure, that's going to generate more trips. And in fact, if it didn't generate more trips, we'd all be unhappy because it would be a failure. So that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to create something that's vibrant and creates economic activity, and that does have some impact. So the first headline is traffic, but it's significantly better than the last time. The next headline is there are numerous areas where this project has less than significant impacts. And that includes within the wetlands. Now, we have a lot of people who are concerned about the impact that this project is going to have on the wetlands. And it was studied exhaustively by the ER consultant and a lot of their sub-consultants. They went out and did site visits. They looked at biological resources. They asked lots of very good technical questions and did a lot of research to try to bolster their results. And the results are there are no significant impacts from this project on the wetlands. And we're happy to hear that because we're big supporters. It's in our interest to try to beautify what right now is not a great resource. I mean, let's admit it. You don't drive by that and think, oh, what a great resource for the city. But if you go down to Huntington Beach or down to San Diego and you look at restored wetlands, you see that they are a beautiful resource. Now, not all of our units are going to be facing the water. A number of them are facing towards the mountains and towards the wetlands. Those units are a lot more valuable if you're looking out at a beautifully restored wetlands than they are right now. So our interests are totally aligned with the wetlands community. And we hope that once we get approvals in place, we sort of move past the Rancor and figure out how we can work together. Because incorporated into our project is a 4,000 square foot coastal science center where we're going to encourage people to learn more about the wetlands. Because as you know, when you learn more about something, you get more interested in it. Your appreciation and your desire to want to understand it and restore it and make it a beautiful resource increases as well. So we're fully committed to that course of action. And then finally, the last headline has to do with alternatives. There's a number of alternatives that are documented, and that's also summarized on our website. I won't get into them in a lot of detail, but these are alternatives that were framed by the city. And each of these alternatives is attempting to understand how would a different kind of a project impact all of these environmental issues. And one of the things that's very important to understand is, as of right, we could have done a up to 35-foot development with no residential, 70% coverage, 30% open space. That's the existing zoning that's in place within CDIP. And a number of people have said, well, why don't you just go build something that doesn't require a change in CDIP? Well, what you could build, and this is documented as one of the alternatives, is a 640,000 square foot retail project. So that's a Lowe's and a Home Depot and a Target and a new supermarket. That's all stacked on top of one another, right? Up to 30 feet or 35 feet. You could put all the parking below grade, or you could park on top of those big boxes. And that would be within the existing zoning envelope. So it's a horrible project. We don't want to do it. But it could be done And the point is that generates about 3 times as much traffic as the project we're proposing. So while we've been accused by some of building too much density and being insensitive to trying to do something that's at the scale of the community, the fact is by doing mixed uses where there's different traffic patterns and where some uses don't generate a lot of traffic, like hotels, like residential, the overall impacts are actually significantly less. There are some alternatives that also evaluate a reduction in the total density, reduction in the residential units. Remember, there's 325. It looks at what happens if you take 50 units and it goes to 275. Our total retail is about 200,000 square feet. The study asks, well, what if that goes to about 150,000 square feet? And predictably, they do reduce the number of trips. The question becomes, can we create the sort of retail vibrancy that we want with upscale retailers? Can we make that happen when we start to reduce the retail? How far down can we go before we start to get a retail mix that leaves us basically the same sort of options that we have for marketplace arenas? So it's very important that we create something that's differentiated so that it complements the rest of the retail. So I highly doubt that there's many people here who are going to want to spend the time to go through a 2,000-page document. But if you go to the website, you'll see the highlights. And if you're really interested, you can go to the city's website and you can look at the executive summary of the document. That probably takes about 45 minutes or an hour. And we'll bring you up to speed on all of the key issues that relate to this process. And we think this is a great conversation to have. We think it's important that people understand the implications of what happens at that intersection. And we obviously like the project that we're proposing very much, but we understand that there's differences of opinion and we want to respect those differences. And tonight, we're going to start to get a flavor for how those different points of view all come together, because we will be presenting the project, staff will be presenting the project, and then there will be, I'm sure, a very robust discussion of the project at Planning Commission. So whether you are supportive or even if you have questions, we encourage you to become involved. What happens matters. We've treated this intersection as if it's an extremely important intersection in the city. And, you know, the path of least resistance would have been to do something like that, like a big box project. But we think this opportunity is too great. We think this is a gateway site into this beautiful community, and we want to do a very, very special project. So we spent over 3 years and over $4.3 million going through the approvals process to design something that we think is beautiful and has iconic elements and can be an inspiration. And our hope is that as this dialogue continues, that those of us who believe this is the right project and is worthy of support, those voices will get louder and stronger, and we can convince decision makers at the Planning Commission and the City Council that this is something that's worthy of the support of decision makers. And ultimately, the reward for all of that is we then get to go to the Coastal Commission. So we're not done after we get all that. Yeah, if you're thinking you have to be masochistic to be in this business, you're right. You have to have a very strong strain of masochism. But we believe this is the right thing for this community. The economic impacts, over 1,000 permanent jobs, over $2 million a year in annual revenue, so those are extremely significant to the city right now. But probably more important than that, at least in my view, is that we're creating a new, beautiful place in this city. And it's an eyesore right now. That place is an embarrassment. Let's not mince words, right? So we can do better. We can do better. But we can't do it if we're fractured and everybody's fighting with each other. I mean, it's clear, if you look at the headlines, we live in a very oppositional time. For whatever reasons, it's now the notion that you can actually agree on big issues and move forward together seems to be a weakness. But we don't believe that. We believe there are ways we can come together and all of us can declare victory. And this is one of those locations where, frankly, it's just too important for us to just bang heads. We've got to figure out how we can do something really superb there. Because if we do that, my experience having done complex development over 25 years is if we can do that, if we can come together around shared vision and execute beautifully, it's a great source of optimism. Everybody will feel that they've been involved with something that's worthy. That's what we're trying to do. So we hope you come tonight. We hope you support the project. Thank you very much.